high tide has been reached and now the water is going out. It'll come back in this evening, but it won't be as bad as it was. We had a surge between about 7 and 8 feet, and we can finally see the beach here, where the entire beach was covered up, and the surf, the high surf of 20 to 25 feet, took out part of the Virginia Beach fishing pier. We hadn't seen that in a long time. In fact, the last time any of the pier was taken out was way back in 1985. Now, earlier today, late this morning, I ran into NBC News anchor Brian Williams, and he was between the buildings. Now, between the buildings, the wind gets channeled. It's the old Bernoulli effect. And what happened here is I went over to try to measure the wind for Brian, and we'll pick it up from when the anchors back in New York were tossing to him. Take a look.
Brian, can you better explain where you are? You look from our vantage point like you're on a ledge of some sort. You got a wind meter there? Yeah, hang on for dear life.
Introduce to you Mike Seidel with the Weather Channel. Hang on, Mike, what's your reading?
Well, we're kind of protected here. I'd say
Oh! There's Brian.
Not protected enough. Look at that.
Well, I lived to tell about it. Fortunately, an NBC producer grabbed me before I was flown into a generator. It's pretty scary when you have no control of your body and the wind just picks you up and takes you away. It's not that windy now. The good news is the wind will start to blow offshore. The bad news is, and the real story here in the Virginia Beach area, besides the coastal flooding and certainly the low-lying areas getting hit with erosion and the overwash, will be the power outages. Everybody here is without power. Hundreds of thousands of homes without power. And as we saw and we've seen in past with hurricanes, some people don't have power for more than, may not get it back on for as much as a week. So I hope you got the batteries and took all those necessary preliminary hurricane preparedness plans we throw at you on the Weather Channel.
All right, Mike Seidel.
Christina, Carl?
Thanks for that report. We're certainly glad you're okay. It looks a little scary out there.
Just amazing.
Oh, my
video
goodness.
there. Incredible. You know, the storm was very bad, but not as bad as it could have been. At one time, it was a Category 5 storm,
Right.
and those guys wouldn't even be able to stand outside in a storm. You can't even be near the center of a storm like that.
No.
You just have to be miles and miles away. So
Mercifully, it did weaken,
Yeah.
but as you can see, even though it did weaken, it's still something to contend with.
still very strong. And here's the latest on our storm now. The winds are 90 miles an hour officially. We've not seen too much in the way of wind gusts that high within the last couple of hours, and I'm sure during the next advisory that number will be lowered. It's now moving very quickly to the northwest at 24 miles an hour, and that is important as regards the rainfall forecast. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. First, let's take a look at some winds, and they are still gusting to over 60 miles an hour in eastern North Carolina, and then farther northward here, you can see the winds gusting to 55 miles an hour around Chincoteague, and then 51 miles an hour as we get up to around Fenwick, and then notice here the winds gusting into the 40s farther inland in eastern parts of Virginia, and you'll see more of this wind working farther north and west as we go through the night tonight, and the center of that storm continues along towards the north and west. And then much farther northward, we've got high pressure off to the north and a strong pressure gradient between the hurricane and that area of high pressure, so there's a lot of wind here in the northeast, and there will be again tomorrow. There's the forecast for the next 12 hours, maybe 60-mile-an-hour wind or better here, as indicated by the orange, and then a large area of winds greater than 40 miles an hour. Here's a closer look at the radar picture, and notice that we've got a tornado watch in effect along the right front quadrant. We are concerned about heavy rain in some spots, and we do have a forecast here for 5 to 8 in eastern North Carolina, and then say 3 to 5 up through the mountains. But again, because of that fast movement, that rain threat is not as high as it would have been otherwise. Flood watches are in effect here, and our storm will rapidly lift up as we go through the next day or so. Here's the forecast for tomorrow.
Cape Fear River north.